Standard allopathic medicine treats blood pressure as a monolithic metric. A cuff is wrapped around a single arm to generate numbers that evaluate the overarching health of the cardiovascular system. The framework of Qi Kong Yi Dao proposes a different premise. Blood pressure is a highly localized diagnostic map, requiring simultaneous readings across 4 distinct independent nodes. By taking measurements on different limbs, practitioners isolate specific organ function and measure the exact metabolic efficacy of localized tissue. We are going to map out the anatomy of this diagnostic matrix and deconstruct the mathematical formula used to uncover hidden cellular hypoxia in oncology patients. To understand this system, one must discard the standard definitions of our most basic vital signs. Look at this readout. Systolic is we defined as Qi look, measuring localized oxygenation and energy. Diastolic becomes Huet look, tracking physical blood and nutrients. Finally, Hartley is a thermal indicator. High indicates Niet, or heat. Low indicates Han, or cold. Oxygen, blood volume, and localized heat replace the standard cardiovascular perspective in this framework. Every blood pressure reading serves as a real-time audit of the exact cellular resources available to a specific organ. The foundational anatomical axiom of this system is that the left arm and the right arm measure 2 entirely different physiological processes. The left arm tracks gastric function, measuring the energy the stomach uses to transform food. The right arm maps to hepatic function, evaluating the liver's capacity to store the blood and nutrients processed by the stomach. Measuring both arms simultaneously creates a differential baseline, showing how food is processed on the left and stored on the right. This logic extends to the lower extremities. Measurements at the left and right ankles map to renal circulation, evaluating the performance of the kidneys. Mechanically, the framework requires a healthy lower body to present a systolic baseline approximately 10 millimeters of mercury higher than the arms, proving sufficient downward circulatory force. Because functions are strictly localized, differential comparison is the only way to extract usable data. Practitioners apply this bilateral map through a metabolic stress test, comparing the differential readings immediately before and after a patient eats a meal. The data signature of a healthy digestive response is forward metabolism. We can see it map out directly on this table. Watch the left arm's diastolic number. As food enters the stomach, localized blood and nutrient volume must increase, rising from a premeal baseline of 70 up to 80. The right arm's diastolic number must also rise, proving the liver is successfully receiving those nutrients. Reverse metabolism is the pathological inverse, manifesting as esophageal reflux, chronic fatigue, and weight loss. The data signature is immediate. After eating, the diastolic numbers on both the left and right arms drop below their premeal baseline. This indicates the digestive tract failed to extract nutrients, and the body is now consuming its own stored blood reserves to power the mechanical effort of digestion. Quantifying this metabolic failure allows practitioners to predict chronic illness long before standard symptoms materialize. The framework applies these criteria to track the long-term depletion of oxygen and blood volume. Continuous reverse metabolism creates a deficit that starves the cellular environment, the root cause of chronic cancer in this system. This staircase chart outlines the system staging metric, categorizing chronic cancer into 4 distinct stages based on descending blood pressure thresholds. In stages 1 and 2, the systolic pressure drops below 95. This marks a subtle chronic loss of cellular oxygenation, even if these numbers fall within a range often considered normal by standard medicine. By stage 4, the systolic crashes to between 75 and 80, and the diastolic drops to 50. This data reflects a grim physical reality: massive systemic cellular hypoxia, critical blood volume loss, and severe tissue wasting. This model views chronic cancer as a macro disease of deep tissue starvation, severe hypoxia, and hypothermia. This creates a dangerous clinical paradox. An acute cancer patient can present with a seemingly normal blood pressure reading, like 130/65. The red flag in the data is the resting heart rate. A patient recording 130/65 might simultaneously display an extreme heart rate of 120 beats per minute. The framework identifies this as fake blood pressure. Because the patient is severely anemic, the heart is forced into frantic tachycardia to artificially prop up the systolic pressure. To reveal the patient's true physiological state, practitioners apply a mathematical formula to strip away the heart's compensatory action. We start with the recorded data, 130/65, and a heart rate of 120. Step 1. Identify the standard maximum healthy heart rate for the patient's age, 75 in this case. Subtract that from the recorded 120 to isolate 45 excess compensating beats. Step 2. Deduct those 45 excess beats directly from the fake systolic pressure of 130. The result is 85. A true systolic of 85 proves the patient is currently in stage 3 systemic hypoxia. Without this mathematical deduction, a clinician might assume stability while the cellular environment is actually in critical failure. Because the diagnostic matrix is quantified, the therapeutic response is strictly mechanical. The protocol addresses tachycardia by identifying its cause, a severe deficit of physical blood. Increasing total blood volume forces the heart rate down naturally. The biological fuel requirement is specific. The protocol uses glucose combined with protein to synthesize new blood and deliver nutrients to starving organs. Next comes the mechanical requirement. Specialized physical movements act as a biological pump, forcing this new oxygen and fuel into hypoxic tissues. The secondary goals are thermal and chemical. Exertion and glucose raise core body temperature to break down cold cellular coagulations, while shifting blood pH toward an alkaline 7.5. The treatment is a closed-loop mechanical system. One inputs raw materials, applies mechanical force to distribute them, and verifies the outcome by retesting the differential blood pressure matrix. Whether used as an alternative system or an adjunctive monitoring tool, this framework offers a structured, data-driven methodology. Utilizing it requires clinicians to evaluate vital signs as complex, localized variables. The stakes are visible in the math. A fake blood pressure reading can mask acute cellular starvation in plain sight. Which leaves us with a final question. What hidden systemic failures might modern medicine uncover if we stopped reading blood pressure as a single number and started reading it as a map?